The NBA rumor mill is abuzz. The Jazz to keep Lauri Markkanen and build around him. Yeah, of course. We've been saying this for months. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen, and thank you for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate it very much. Today's show is going to be a good one. We will point scheme it at the end of the show, where we'll look at the best offensive players around the league, everything that's going on with that. We will discuss the dreaded draft pick situation that all of you that follow this team daily are dealing with, and it is worth a discussion. We will start with the rumors that the Jazz are going to keep Lauri Markkanen and build around him. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time app. Create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And to the everydayers out there, you are the best. Thank you so much. All right. So Mark Stein reported it first in the Stein line that the Utah Jazz are going to likely keep Lauri Markkanen and build around him. This is not breaking news if you've been listening to Locked on Jazz for the last 6 months, as hopefully you have been. As my comment has been this entire time, I think the Jazz, Lauri Markkanen, plays on the next Jazz playoff team. That Lauri Markkanen is a part of the next Jazz playoff team. Let me explain that comment, and then there is one scenario where this is not the case. So let's walk through them and discuss this for a second and understand why. And then this relates to, what about the draft pick? What about the fact that our draft pick is currently such that if we fall to 9th in the NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder get our pick? And we're eerily close to that. And I am not going to lie to you. I've seen mock drafts where that pick goes to Oklahoma City, and you're like, ah! So let's discuss, why would the Jazz keep Lauri if this draft pick is there? The first thing is you have to have some pieces in place. Washington and who we're going to see Brooklyn tonight do not. And I guess over time, we'll find out if they're right or not. And their commitment to not having any pieces in place and grow with youth is quite the commitment. On the other end of things, I think when you look at where the Jazz are, what they're in the midst of a rebuild and trying to see what they can do and how they can build this. And the next step is you have Ace Bailey hopefully coming together. You add another piece of the puzzle here in the near future. And then from there, you have to have some piece in place. So we have Lauri in place as a bona fide elite top 50 player in the NBA. And then once you have Lauri in place, you can build around him and add pieces. We're going to hopefully add 1 or 2 pieces in free agency. Either one of them is a very significant piece, or if we have players coming together, you do what Oklahoma City did, which is you add Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, where maybe you overpay a little bit to get a player, or maybe you overpay for an Austin Reeves this offseason, and you've now coupled Austin Reeves with Lauri Markkanen. You're waiting for Ace Bailey to click, and hopefully you have a top 5 pick in this year's draft. And now you have your pieces that you're trying to build your puzzle with to move forward. If you trade Lauri Markkanen, you literally have the cupboard is bare and you're starting at 0. And that's, I think, where you just, if you're the Jazz, that is literally starting as cupboard at 0. If you were to trade Lauri Markkanen? The reason would be that there's a young piece that is available that fills a gap in your building. In other words, let's say Keyonte George was having another 39% shooting year and 31% from 3 year instead of the breakout year he's having, and we're sitting here on December 4th saying to ourselves, oh gosh, we don't have we don't have a guard. Then maybe you're like, okay, our rebuild is set back a little bit. We trade Lauri Markkanen for a young piece. It's a guard. Jaden Ivey has been mentioned the most out of the Detroit Pistons, and you try to put some other pieces together. But right now, on a year which, if we really want to get into it, has been virtually perfect for the Utah Jazz and where they are as a franchise, Lauri's reestablished himself. Keyonte has burst through in a year 3 breakout to show he's a bona fide NBA player. Ace Bailey is showing every sign of being terrific. Walker Kessler's injury, not so perfect, but you know that Walker is a established NBA player. You now have pieces to this puzzle. And Lauri is also a key piece because of this, basically the foundation he builds. The second area on Lauri, if we're just being completely transparent, I think he's very hard to trade. The apron collective bargaining system that we have right now is pretty restrictive on teams adding players, and Lauri's paid an awful lot. When he's up at 40 and 50 million, if he's going to be your second or third best player, I'm not sure it works for a lot of teams. Detroit is probably one of the exceptions to that. There are some surprising teams having good years right now that could have an impact. I don't think you're trading Lauri for Giannis, for example, from our standpoint, unless you think that Giannis you're going to be able to turn this thing around really fast. I don't think Giannis is going to want to come to Utah for part of the build process. So when you start to look at Lauri and trying to trade let's not call it Lauri, you're trying to trade a 40 or $50 million contract right now to a team and you're not Luka Doncic, I think that's a tough trade to be made. So this report that the Jazz are keeping Lauri and building around him, unsurprising to me at all in any way, shape, or form. It's frankly what I've been saying here for months on end, that Lauri will be on the Jazz next playoff team. But more, when you dig into it, there's just real logic behind that. The logic behind keeping Lauri is you need a piece in place to build around. The logic is that his salary works for us at 40 or 50 million because once we're good, Ace Bailey's going to be on a cost-controlled salary. You're going to have some cap space to sign some other people, and hopefully your second really good young player who you're getting in this draft is under a cost-controlled salary. You're going to have some players under cost control the way the Boston Celtics did with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as they built this thing up, as the way Oklahoma City does right now, as with Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams as they build this thing up, and they'll start to have both those teams will then have to adjust as those cost control salaries come off the books. That's the model. You can have Lauri at 45 or 50 when you have that model. And the third piece is things are going well. So the only reason to trade Lauri is if you're trying to fill a gap in some area of your development by bringing in one or two new young players you're taking a shot at. I'm not precluding the idea like Jaden Ivey, the much talked about one. If you believe in Jaden Ivey, there's no reason Jaden Ivey couldn't play next to Keyonte George if you really believe that's what you need as a guard line. But there's also, like, I'm going to take the bird in hand of a top 50 player at that point who matches salary-wise and everything else. So that's the biggest thing. Now, there is one other reason why you would trade Lauri Markkanen, and that's the dreaded draft pick, the Derek Favors salary dump trade that still is cursing us today with this draft pick, top 8 protected, would be you unload Lauri to make sure that you don't win too many games. Let's discuss the draft pick and what the Jazz should do about it and how big an issue it is next on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Woodward Park City. Fun per foot ratio at Woodward, second to none. Located just 20 minutes from Salt Lake Valley, Woodward offers experiential learning in a radically fun and safe environment with facilities for all abilities. The door is always open to first-timers and regulars alike. Bounce from parks to pits to ramps to tramps and back again. Mountain Park season passes are now on sale for just $499. That's right, just $499 for your Mountain Park season pass. Rip hop laps with the posse after school or into the evening. Maximize mountain time this winter at one of the best terrain parks in Utah all season long. Looking to go all in? The All Access memberships provide that for you, from passes to perks to discounts and more. Just starting out, learn to fly with Woodward's Tribe in seasonal multi-week programs that build skills and confidence in a Stoke-inspired environment. It's just 20 minutes from Salt Lake City. Woodward offers experiential learning with facilities for all abilities. Learn more. Again, the all-new Winter Mountain Park Pass, $499. Ride all season at one of Wasatch's best terrain parks and get absolute best value out of your winter. It's the place to maximize mountain time. Easy in, easy out. No pay to park, no shuttle to the mountain. Just show up and ride in just 20 minutes from downtown. It is Woodward Park City. Today's show is also brought to you by our good friends over at Robinhood. What if sports traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, or you always knew the game. But never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can actually take part live in any market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. It's play-by-play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right. Let's have the dreaded conversation. For those who do not know this, many years ago, the Jazz were in a salary crunch, did not want to pay the luxury tax, wanted some contract flexibility to do other things, and traded Derek Favors to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The exchange on the deal was the Jazz gave up a first-round draft pick, but the Jazz astutely protected that first-round draft pick so that if it was too good, Oklahoma City wouldn't get it. In each year, the protections dwindled, and in this year, the protections are 1 through 8. So if the Jazz pick 1 through 8, they get their pick, and if they pick 9 through 30, it goes to Oklahoma City. Here's the really interesting one about this, is if the Jazz pick 1 through 8 this year, the protections dissolve, and it becomes a second-round draft pick that goes to Oklahoma City. Now, when the year started, I think everyone kind of agreed that the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards were committed to the task of being in draft position at a level that nobody can compete with, and that everyone kind of assumed the Jazz were next in line. But as we sit here today, and you project out the standings for the season at Basketball Reference, as of right now, it is projected that we would go to the lottery with Washington with the #1 pick, New Orleans with the #2, though they lose it, Indiana with the #3 pick, Sacramento with the #4 pick, Brooklyn with the #5 pick, the Charlotte Hornets with the #6 pick, and the Utah Jazz with the #7 pick, with Dallas and the Clippers hovering awfully close. It's getting tight. What has happened here is I don't think anybody expected Indiana to be this bad. No one expected Charlotte to be this bad. And no one expected the Clippers or the Mavericks to be in this conversation. That's how at least the season projects right now, right? If you actually look at the standings right now, the Jazz are in the direct. You go to tankathon.com, and it's right there. The 9th pick of the draft moves to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because as we sit here right now, Dallas at 8-15 and the Clippers at 6-16 and Charlotte at 6-16 all have worse records than Utah Jazz. And if the season were to end today and the lottery would go as expected, the Jazz would give up their pick. So let me be perfectly clear about something. We're not going to sugarcoat this. If the Jazz lose their first-round pick, it's pretty catastrophic. The whole entire build is built about adding talent. And to go a year where you're not winning a lot of games and not add talent would be pretty catastrophic. That's undeniable. Let me tell you what. It's not lost on anyone. I don't think, don't sit here and worry, oh my gosh, people don't realize how important having the pick is. No, everyone knows. It's that big a deal. And I don't think making a run for the play-in is worth the pick. Losing the pick. What has happened that makes this interesting is these other teams that have suddenly played far worse than you expected. When you projected out the season, you did not expect Indiana, Sacramento, the Clippers, and Dallas to have a worse record than the Jazz. Okay, the Clippers, I'm not particularly worried about because they don't control their pick. The Clippers pick goes to Oklahoma City as well. Sam Presti's just going to clean up here, GM of Oklahoma City. Right now, if the season ended today, Oklahoma City would have the best record in the history of the NBA and have the 7th and 9th pick of the drafts. It's crazy. I think the Clippers will make a run to try to make the play-in. And maybe getting rid of Chris Paul evidently is all they needed to do. I don't know about New Orleans should make a run. They don't own their pick. There's no reason for them to be bad. I actually am not sure they're capable of winning. They're 3-19, and they should be winning, and they're getting worse. Indiana and Sacramento are a problem. Indiana and Sacramento are going to head full-fledged into lottery positioning here. There's no other choice. Indiana is trying to play better. They've won 3 of their last 10. Sacramento's lost 8 of 10. Is getting blown out on a nightly basis. Brooklyn's fully committed. You suddenly have New Orleans, who may not be capable of winning, and 4 franchises, maybe 5 of Charlotte, who are going to be committed to lottery position. That makes a group of 7. If we go into the lottery night with 7 at the 7th pick, there's 2 problems with that. 1, 2 teams jump us, we lose our pick. And 1, we're hoping to get a better than 7th pick of the draft. So how concerned should we be? It's a real issue. Let's not ignore that. We're projected to win 30 games right now on the basketball reference thing. That feels really high still. And this is where I might say, let's let things play out a tiny bit. 1, we've had relatively perfect health. 2, we have not played the toughest schedule in the world. 3, the Houston win was the first time we've beaten above 500 team. So I don't think we're radically so much better than we thought that we're making a run to the it's unstoppable. We've currently won 7 games. I think the expectation probably at this point, 20 games into the season, is we've probably won 1 or 2 more games than we anticipated. I think if you probably looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, you would have thought we were probably 5-15 at this point. We're 7-13. So we're not 10 games ahead of where we would be. We're 2 games ahead of where you thought. That might matter. I think you're going to see 25 win number kind of being the number where everyone hovers around it. New Orleans probably gets to 25. Washington, I doubt it. I would suspect that Brooklyn, Indiana, Sacramento are all around 25. And that's only 8 more wins for us the rest of the way. That could be hard for us to get to. And I don't know that we're suddenly going to want to make the effort to go do that. But that 25 win number seems to be kind of where teams are going to sit in this upcoming year. And yeah, if we're sitting at 7, it's going to be super nerve-wracking. Ideally, you're at like 5 and you win the lottery. We've all seen that the issue is two-part. One is you'd like to get one of the top 4 picks through the lottery. And the second part of it is you don't want to be in a position where bad luck suddenly sends you to 9 and you lose your pick. So what does this mean? It's a little nerve-wracking right now. It's not lost on anyone. It is that important. It's not full-blown crisis mode because while we're 2 games ahead of where we probably are, we're not like 8 games ahead. But if the draft pick is this important, which it is, yeah, honestly, some of the wiggle room is getting tight and getting a little unnerving, and that's a bummer. And this draft pick has kind of cursed the Jazz fan experience for the last few years. There's no question, but it's real. So that's where we sit on it. I wouldn't quite get to the I never want us to win another game level, but there is a weird aspect to having this thing lingering outside of us, and there has been a change this year that there are 3 or 4 teams that have suddenly hit the skids in a manner that no one anticipated. And so what looked like a 3-team race to the bottom instead is a 7-team race for lottery positioning. And that certainly changes the dynamics of the year and what's taking place. It's a weird way. I will agree with all of you on this. It is a super weird way to be a sports fan right now. And thankfully, this will hopefully be the last and final year that we ever deal with it. Because the irony is, this goes from this cumbersome trade to all of a sudden, if we actually go through this season and we end up only giving up second-round draft picks, we actually ended up giving up almost nothing for the Derek Favors salary dump after feeling like it's encumbered us in everything we've done for the last eon. Crazy. Points gained is our offensive metric system we use to judge who's playing well, what they're doing on the offensive side. It's exclusive to Locked On Jazz, and it's next. Today's show is brought to you in part by our good friends over at Game Time. Ticketing app for you is the official ticketing app of Locked On, and Game Time is here to make sure that you have the best experience you possibly can while looking for tickets and making sure that you can get to it. We've got a massive, big-time event coming up here in the United States. It's the World Cup coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. 48 teams for the first time ever. Going to be massive. Getting tickets, usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. Finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to World Cup realistic instead of impossible. I love the Game Time app because, 1, the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. 2, you can pick a game, tap a section, have tickets located within minutes, no confusion, no hunting. And the seat view feature is game-changing. The price, upfront fees, all shown. No last-second surprises at checkout. That's what separates Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets, every match, every concert, every event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first pitch tickets. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All at Game Time. Everydayers, we've got a fun announcement coming for you next week. Hopefully you're going to love it. Super access to things, new benefits, all sorts of extra stuff coming to the everydayer out there. All right, points gained is our offensive metric we use to judge offensive players. Sometimes Thursdays are point games Thursdays. Sometimes they're late game watch Thursday. I have not gotten to late game watch. So today is a points game Thursday. So let's look. For the season, Nikola Jokic continues to be the top player in the NBA. Actually, I have something weird going in my offensive numbers right now. So let me look at what's going on, see if I can fix this. I have Nikola Jokic twice, and I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander twice, and I have Giannis Antetokounmpo twice. I have something funky taking place in my metrics, so we're going to do a quick little change and see if I can get that back so that it's fixed. But Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to no one's surprise, are the top two players. Here's the way the statistic works. We look at two basic abilities. One is the efficiency by which someone uses a possession. Okay? So, right, there's a league average in which somebody uses an offensive possession. We compare everybody based on that level. So instead of some of the things you've seen where they do it by replacement level, we do it by league average. And the premise is a belief that if you can get everybody on your roster above the league average, then you will end up being pretty much unstoppable offensively. Denver's pretty close to getting there. They have the best offense in the league. Oklahoma City was pretty close to some of it last year. That's the premise. You want everyone. The second thing is the ability to use an offensive possession. Or, excuse me, the ability to get an offensive possession off. Like, it's hard to actually get shots off in this league, so you can be super efficient. You dunk 4 times a game, you'll come out well, but it's not safe. Here are this season's points game leaders, and the number 3 guy on this list should open everyone's eyes. Number 1 is Nikola Jokic. Number 2 is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Number 3 is Austin Reeves. Free agent at the end of the year. Should that be the Jazz target? Number 4 is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 5 is Jalen Duren. 6, Norman Powell. That might be why the Clippers are having such a tough year. Number 7, Donovan Mitchell having a monster season. Number 8, DeAndre Ayton for the Lakers. Number 9, Kawhi Leonard. Number 10 is Ryan Klockenberger for Charlotte, who just dunks every single time, shoots 81%. Number 11 is Aaron Gordon. Number 12 is Steph Curry. Number 13 is Zach Edey in his limited time. Number 14 is Luka Doncic. Number 15 is A.J. Green. 16, Anthony Edwards. 17, Jimmy Butler. 18, Chet Holmgren. 19, Antonio Reeves of Charlotte. Tulo Smith of Detroit jumping in there. Rudy Gobert. And then these are all the guys that are +2, which is a big deal. James Harden, Ayo Dosunmu, Jakob Poeltl, Jalen Johnson, Sam Merrill, and Mikal Bridges. The worst offensive player in the NBA, those who are having the most negative impact, Ja Morant stays there. He's been there for a little while. And these players, I will tell you that my feeling has been always that one of the areas where the league makes the biggest mistake is they do not understand the impact of how negative a player is. A negative offensive player really disrupts your offense, and it's hard to overcome. LaMelo Ball, along with Ja Morant, are the 2 least efficient offensive players in the NBA, having the largest negative impact on the team's offense. Caleb Love in Portland, Derek White, Jerice Walker, Trey Mann in Charlotte, Brandon Williams, VJ Edgecombe, not surprising, but is illuminating. Dennis Schroeder, D'Angelo Russell, Dallas playing better as they don't play him. Ben Shepherd in Indiana. Vince Williams in Memphis. Aaron Nesmith, Indiana. Lonzo Ball in Cleveland. Cleveland might have a problem, by the way. And then Shaedon Sharpe in Portland kind of wraps up the list of the bottom 10 offensive players. Over the last 10 games, the hottest player in the NBA, no surprise to anyone, seems to be the one Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. followed by Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, prior to the injury, was third. Austin Reeves, fourth. Kawhi Leonard, fifth. Giannis, who just went out with an injury, fifth. Norman Powell, sixth. So a lot of the same names just early in the season. Tyler Hero has only played 4 games, but heating up. DeAndre Ayton, Jalen Duren, AJ Green, Mark Williams, and Cameron Johnson in Denver heating up. Donovan Mitchell on fire. No big changes in there. Coldest players in the NBA over the last 10 games. And we'll look at the Jazz here in just 1 second. LaMelo Ball is the coldest player in the league, minus 4.8. That is horrific. Shooting 33% from the floor, 23% from 3. That's unplayable. Brandon Williams in Dallas, Vince Williams in Memphis, Draymond Green, Herb Jones, Caleb Love. Jalen Williams has not started well in his 3 games back. VJ Edgecombe, Cody Williams, Lonzo Ball. Jovic out of Miami. Bruce Brown in Denver struggling. Shaedon Sharpe struggling. Patrick Williams, Cedric Coward, Russell Westbrook finding his usual spot. Seeing some of the rookies showing up there. Cooper Flagg going the other way recently, as is Ace Bailey. For the Utah Jazz for the season, the way to judge this, again, who's your most efficient offensive players, and then they get bonused for being able to get shots off. Walker was our best. Now Lauri is plus 1.2. Svi Mykhailiuk next at plus 0.5. Keyonte George at plus 0.4. That's very good for Key. Kevin Love's positive. Isaiah Collier plus 0.3. Good to see. Ace Bailey is at minus 0.3, which is good for rookie. Bryce Sensabaugh minus 0.5. Kyle Filipowski minus 0.6. Walt Clayton minus 0.7. Taylor minus 1.1. Yusuf Nurkic minus 1.4. And Cody Williams minus 1.9. And if we go to the most recent stretch of games on our points game Thursday for our Jazz players, Lowry's going to be the leader still at 2.0. Impressive comeback from struggling. But Ace Bailey is at plus 1.6 over his last 10 games. 53% from the floor, 42% from 3, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. It is all happening. Svi Mykhailiuk at plus 1.1. Kevin Love at 0.6. Kyle Filipowski 0.4. Good to see all those guys in the positive. Yusuf Nurkic is at 0.2. Keyonte still at 0.2. Bryce Sensabaugh minus 0.6. Walt Clayton at minus 1.2. And Cody at minus 3. That is your points gained. That is your Thursday edition of Locked On. We'll be back with you tomorrow from New York City after the Nets tonight. Join us on the drive home. Ron Boone and I will be on the call. Have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel on Locked On NBA on YouTube. And if you're on audio, make sure you pick up at Locked On NBA Game Night every game.